Our last session today is a featured talk on women's health and wellness for thriving in life and work by Dr. Bettina Kurkjian. I hope I didn't butcher that last name. She is a board-certified OBGYN dedicated to guiding women thrive at every stage with empathy, trust, and evidence-based care. A graduate of Stanford University and UC Irvine School of Medicine, she has practiced at Kaiser Permanente and Washington Health and now serves as Chief of Quality and Physician Leadership at Washington Health. Across a clinical and leadership role, she applies data-driven, lean methodologies to improve clinical workflows, safety, and outcomes, turning insights into compassionate, personalized care. A fellow of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, Dr. Bettina combines compassion with innovation to advance women's health and wellness for thriving in life and work. Let's welcome Dr. Bettina.
All right. Okay, so can you hear me? Sounds good? Okay, lovely. So thank you so much for inviting me to come speak with you. This has really been such an amazing conference to be at, the panelists, I mean, just so wonderful to hear about all the work that's going on and the amazing leadership journeys that some of you guys have had. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to come and talk about something that I'm really passionate about, which is really helping women become their best selves, right? Really helping us to be able to grow and thrive and achieve. So I'm going to start my talk actually with a little story. And this is a story about chickens, okay? And so some of you may have heard about this work. This work is often talked about having to do with team building. And you're probably like thinking right now, okay, what do chickens have to do with any of this? But you know, just bear with me. So a researcher named William Muir, he's an evolutionary biologist at Purdue University. So he was interested in studying productivity. So, productivity, kind of hard to study, right? And so he thought he'd study productivity in chickens, right? Because chickens, you don't need to worry about how many hours they're working or how much revenue they're bringing in, right? All you need to do is count the eggs. So he took two groups of chickens. His first group was his control group, right? And this was just your normal average run-of-the-mill chickens. He didn't do anything with this group. He just let them kind of do their, chickeny thing, right? Lay their eggs, be happy, eat their food, hang out in their coop with their chicken buddies. The other group he actually manipulated, and he made this flock. He only would take the highest producing chickens in this flock. So he pulled out the lower producing chickens, only the ones that really produced all the eggs, a lot of eggs. He made this flock of super chickens, okay? And he watched these chickens over multiple generations and, kept culling the super chicken flock to really have those high producers. So at the end of his experiment, he looked at his two flocks. So his control flock that he hadn't really done anything with, they were doing great. They were, plump, happy, feathers good, right? And he actually saw that their overall egg production for the whole flock went up over time, over these generations. The super chickens, unfortunately, did not fare so well. Okay, there were only 3 of them alive at the end of the experiment. Those 3 had pecked to death all the other chickens, okay? So why do I tell this story? Well, I think this is, an example of really, it's somewhat counterintuitive, right? But achievement is not necessarily about being, the smartest, the most technically savvy, the hardest working, the person who stays the latest, right? Achievement is really about bringing our best selves to the table, right? Being present in the room every day, really harnessing the best of ourselves to really be able to achieve and contribute. So, how do we do that, right? How do we do that? So I think one of the ways that it's really important for us to really achieve our best, and more importantly, not only achieve but actually maintain, is to take care of ourselves, right? A lot of us focus on our work, our families, and we often put ourselves kind of on the back burner. Well, I'll get to that, right? But I think really to come into our job, our family, our social situations as our best, we really need to concentrate on taking care of ourselves. So, and if we don't, that chronic stress, that chronic fatigue, that emotional fatigue, over time can really derail us and can really cause us not to be able to do what we want to do. So, I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of what I think self-care means, okay, and maybe some motivation for why we should all be doing self-care. And I'm going to give you some little quick hits for, how can we start to move the needle? How can we start to change our behaviors to really start to prioritize that self-care? And these are kind of, easy-ish things because, of course, change is never easy, right? And so what happens when we ignore our well-being, our health and well-being? Well, unfortunately, we know there's a big body of research that's going on. There's a lot of work out there and more every day that really is showing these links between, nutrition, exercise, sleep, our mental well-being, really linking those behaviors to some of the modern diseases that we're seeing, things like diabetes, high blood pressure, stroke, anxiety and depression. And we can really influence those either negatively, okay, by ignoring those things, or positively, to make a better impact on our health. And of course, we have our genetics, right? So we can't change everything. You can't go back and choose your parents, right? Your genetics is what it is, right? Our environment, sometimes we can't really change our environment, right? We may be living in a certain place because that's where the jobs are. We've gone where the jobs are. We don't necessarily want to be there, maybe we want to be in the Canadian Rockies, right? But there's not a lot of tech jobs in the Canadian Rockies, right? So here we are in Silicon Valley. So, we can't always change those things, but we can change what we're doing, right? So, there's a lot of data out there. You guys are engineers, you love data, I love data. I could spend 3 hours talking about the data, so I'm not going to do that at all. If you want to look at the data, you guys are data experts, you know how to get the data, right? What I want to do is really just give you a little more kind of practical insights from my time spent as a clinician and helping women through these things. So let's start by talking about nutrition. So we have a lot of nutritional challenges, right? We live in a world, especially in this country, so much easy convenience food, right? So a lot of processed foods, a lot of foods that are highly processed, really easily available to us, contain all sorts of things with multiple syllables that we have no idea what they are, right? We're busy, right? We don't have time to cook. We're relying on other people to cook our food for us, either restaurant food or DoorDash or whatever, right? And the more that you're eating, things that other people have created, or you're eating, you have less control over what goes in there, right? We're all, our diets are really carbohydrate based. A lot of us aren't getting enough protein. We probably need, for a 60 kg person, you probably need somewhere between 50 and 100 grams of protein per kilogram, right? You need about 50 to 100 grams of protein in your diet if you're about 60 kgs, right? So that's a lot of protein, right? That's, for example, an egg has about 7. So, you really need that flock of high-producing chickens if you're going to have a lot of eggs in your diet to get your protein up, right? So eat a lot of carbohydrates. We don't prioritize our protein. A lot of us aren't very cautious or careful about our vitamin D and calcium intake, which we need to help support strong bones. So what can we do, right? What can we do? So I'm not going to tell you to stop going out to eat. I'm not going to tell you to stop using DoorDash. I'm not going to tell you to, cook every meal, right? But what are some sort of easy things you can do, or easy-ish things you can do? So I love what Michael Pollan says about eating. He's done a lot of writing on food. I love what he says about food. Eat food. Okay, and I think by that he means real food, right? Like not, don't buy food where you buy your gasoline, okay? There's not a lot of real food in convenience stores like that, okay? So eat real food, not too much, mostly plants, okay? Very straightforward. Don't eat anything that won't rot, okay? If it won't rot, there's probably a lot of stuff in there you don't want in your body. Shop the perimeter of your grocery store. So if you go to your regular grocery store, Safeway or Ralph's or whatever, the perimeter is where all of those really good foods are. So there's your fruits and vegetables, you got the rainbow there, your meat, your meat proteins, your other proteins, dairy proteins. So shop the perimeter, really focus on the perimeter. I used to tell all my patients, shop for snacks. So when you go to the grocery store, shop for snacks. Shop for things that are healthy that you want to eat, because if you don't shop for a snack and you don't bring it with you, then your snack is going to be that, piece of chocolate cake that your coworker brought in because they don't want it in their house and they want you to finish it, right? So shop for snacks, bring those with you, okay? All right, exercise. One of our panelists said she was an avid exerciser. I was so happy to hear that. I met another woman who had been an Olympic swimmer. I mean, so amazing, right? I'm a big exercise fan. I didn't start out that way. I was not an athlete as a child. I was that person who really preferred to, sit and read books, right? But as I've gotten older, I've really come to enjoy exercise. And mainly I like it just for the way it makes me feel, right? So we should be getting at least 150 minutes of moderate exercise a week, or 75 minutes of vigorous exercise, okay? I want to put a plug in for strength training. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of water while you contemplate strength training, okay? I want to put a plug in for strength training. Weight training, especially for those of us that are getting older, approaching our 50s, try and aim for 2 days of strength training a week, okay? It's, as you get older, really hard to maintain your muscle mass. You really want that strength training for bones and, bone support and muscle support. So, of course, again, just like I'm not going to tell you that you need to cook every meal and never go out, I'm not going to tell you to, go to the gym and start an hour a day, every day, right? If I told you that, you'd say, right, you'd shoot me, right? And plus you'd feel horrible, right? If you start, go out and run 5 miles today, if you've never run 5 miles, you're gonna feel miserable and you're never gonna do it again. So start with what you think you can achieve. Be honest, be realistic. Don't beat yourself up. If all you wanna do is 15 minutes, a 15-minute walk 3 times a week with your, colleagues, great, start with that. Just choose what you can commit to. Put it in your calendar, because that really helps, okay? On the weekends, I put on my exercise clothes when I wake up. So no matter what I'm gonna do that day, I put on my exercise clothes. I figure I can always change my clothes if I'm not gonna exercise, but at least if I've got my clothes on, I'm more motivated to go out and exercise. Snacks, who likes snacks? Raise your hand if you like snacks. Yeah, we all love snacks, right? Yay. Okay, exercise snacks. Yes, so you can do exercise snacks. So these are 1 to 2 minute activities you can do throughout your day, just sort of quickly, right? Push-ups against the wall. You don't need to get down on the ground, right? Just push up against the wall, do 10 of those. Chair squats, so just choose a chair, sit, stand up, up and down. Even just, standing and, running with your arms really fast, right? So these are, it seems silly, it seems, small, but even these small interval bits of exercise have been shown to, to improve your fitness. All right, sleep. Who gets enough sleep? Anybody? Oh, great, excellent, good job, okay. Very tough. Sleep's super important for our cognition. You guys are all using your brains all the time, right? So sleep is really important. A lot of people struggle with getting enough sleep, right? So really tough problem, really tough problem. So the first thing you want to do with sleep is to make sure you have good sleep hygiene. So sleep hygiene is the meal prep for sleep. So I heard someone talk about meal prep, and I think someone wanting AI to do meal prep maybe, right? So sleep hygiene is the meal prep for sleep. So basically, you want to prepare for sleep. About an hour before you sleep, you want to really start having a calm environment, okay? The worst possible thing you could do is read your email while you're lying in bed, and the last email you see before you're ready to go to sleep is that email from your boss who tells you about some disaster that's happened, you know, across the world, and you know you're gonna have to deal with that tomorrow, right? That's just a recipe for not sleeping well. And okay, let's be honest, who does that, right? Who reads their email before they go to bed? Anybody? Couple of honest people, okay, very good. So really try not to do that, right? Really try to make your room something, a relaxing place, wind down, get comfortable, calming music, you know, whatever it is that works for you. If you really have a lot of trouble sleeping, I would really encourage you to see your doctor or talk to a sleep specialist, because things like sleep apnea are, some people suffer from sleep apnea, and that can interfere with your sleep, and sleep apnea can be something that's actually very dangerous for your health. So if you really are having trouble sleeping, please, please check with a specialist. All right, let's deal with the elephant in the room, okay? The elephant in the room is stress, okay? So, anyone with no stress? All right, I knew it. Does anybody have more stress than they want? Yeah, about half, right? So stress is actually, you know, not always a bad thing, right? We are physiologically designed to respond to stress, right? Fear, anxiety, right? I mean, our bodies get really ramped up, our heart rate goes up, right? And that is very, very protective if what you're afraid of is the tiger that's 6 feet away from you that's about to jump, right? You want that hyperactivity, right? You want to be able to run as fast as you can. Okay, so very adaptive, right? Not so adaptive if it's your boss that you're afraid of or have anxiety around, right? Not very helpful. And you know, I think a lot of times, you know, we talk to our friends, family about stress, our doctors about stress, and they say, well, you need to get rid of the stress in your life, right? You need to decrease your stress. And you know, whenever I think anyone says to me, well, you need to decrease your stress, you know, my answers are either, well, how, right? Or, well, that's impossible. Or, well, go tell my boss that, right, that I need to decrease my stress. And so I like to really make the distinction between stress reduction and stress management, right? So we can't often control the pressures that are coming at us, especially you guys are, you know, you're in a very, you know, we heard very fast-paced field, lots of things changing. So hard to control those pressures, but you can control your response to those. And so besides, you know, exercise, good nutrition, how do we do that? So there's a paradigm that I really like that is being above or below the line. I don't know how many of you have heard this concept, yeah, about being above or below the line, yeah. So basically what this is that folks who live above the line, right, or folks who are above the line, right, or you know, are people who sort of see things positively, right? They have that growth mindset. They see, you know, they see obstacles as challenges. They see interactions as collaborative, right? We heard some just beautiful examples from our panelists about curiosity and creativity and team engagement, right? So that's really kind of that above the line thinking, right? That growth mindset thinking. Folks who live below the line tend to see themselves more as victims, right? Obstacles are things that are happening to them. Resources are pie, right? A piece for you is one less piece for me, right? And so we really want to sort of refocus our energy and really try and stay at that above the line thinking, that growth mindset, right? And so a really useful technique for this is something that's called reframing, and I use this pretty frequently. So reframing is really just about sort of taking that negative thought, right, and not judging yourself or not, whatever, just being curious, well, I had this negative emotion, what's that about, right? And really trying to think, is that, even ask yourself, is that even true, right? Is that even true? And try and think, how can I put this in a more positive light or maybe a more balanced perspective? So I'll give you an example of this. This is something actually that happened to me yesterday. So in my work, we do a daily stand-up huddle, to sort of an operational huddle to make sure we're all on track for the day. And one of my coworkers brought up so we're doing this particular program, and one of my coworkers brought up that there was a VIP group, and we've been asked to do a carve-out program for the VIP group, right? And so, of course, a number of us rolled our eyes. We're like, oh, we're so busy. Why can't they just come to the one we're doing, right? Why do we have to do something special for this group? And I felt myself just falling there below the line, right? And I could see my coworkers. We were just kind of, falling below the line. And so I thought to myself, well, why did I, have such a response to that? And I started thinking about sort of my own feelings of, equity and, my own work pressures, and did I really have time to do that and that kind of stuff. And so, and then I thought, well, let's just reframe this. And so I said to my colleagues, guys, this is super inconvenient for us. We don't want to do this, right? But, this is a group of people who give a lot to the organization. They spend a lot of their own, time and even resources to support our organization. So this, maybe this is like the least we can do for them to, to give them this carve-out time to make it easy for them and say as a thank you for their contribution to the organization. And so what I found for myself was just by reframing that, I was able to put that aside. Like, whereas, otherwise I might have sort of carried that resentment and anger and irritation with me throughout the rest of the day, right? But by reframing, I was able to kind of put that aside. So I find that a really helpful technique, okay? There are tons of apps, right, out there to help us manage stress, things like Headspace, Insight Timer. I'm sure you guys are way familiar with all of those. I want to just point you in the direction of a really fun website, or what really fun group. It's out of Duke University, and it's called I always have to read this, it's called the Center for Advancement of Wellbeing Science. So if you just Google Duke CAWS, C-A-W-S, you'll get to this. And they have an on-demand toolkit that you can access. You have to sort of be part of their studies, so you have to answer some questions, but it's really lovely, right? It's you can sign up for a program, and there are these, again, little bites, right? Little bites of wellness. So, for example, 2 minutes a day for 8 days on joy. And once a day, they'll send you a prompt on your phone. It'll come on your phone, and they'll ask you, what's something that you did yesterday that was joyful, and upload a picture of it, right? And so it's a really nice way to get those kind of little bites of wellness, and just remind yourself, recenter. There's other stuff going on. Okay, so last thing is social self-care. I mean, here we are in this amazing group, and there was a lot of, dialogue before and a lot of interaction and networking, and so, good for you guys, just even being here, right? We have to make these social connections part of our lives, right? If we just let them happen organically, they probably won't, because we're all busy with other things. So, schedule time with your friends and your family. Schedule time to go out. Okay, so this is a group of complete overachievers, right? So and people who really want to time manage. So I'm going to give you a couple of 2-for-1s, okay? So 2-for-1, eat with people you love, okay? So sit around the table, eat with your family, eat with people you love, social and nutrition, okay? Another 2-for-1, exercise with a friend. Get a gym buddy, go out for a walk with a friend, right? You got that exercise and that social aspect, so those 2 aspects of self-care. Okay, for the super overachievers, 3-for-1, okay? 3-for-1, hike in the forest with a friend, okay? So you've got the exercise, you got the social, and you've got that, forest bathing, lovely, calming, atmosphere, okay? So, just to wrap up, okay, don't feel guilty about taking care of yourself, okay? Don't feel guilty. You deserve it, okay? Your family deserves it. Your coworkers deserve it, okay? You guys deserve it. Be a role model for the people you love, right? So teach your kids. It is okay, in fact, it's even desirable to prioritize my own self-care, right? Show them what it means to be, emotionally present. Show them what it means to be active. Show them what it means to be, someone who likes good food, right? Teach them, because that's going to help them be happy, healthy adults, right? Those of you that have younger kids, believe me, eventually they're going to get there, okay, and they'll be out of your house, right? Or in my case, maybe not. I've still got one at home. Remember, you do not have to be perfect to be amazing, okay? You guys are amazing, okay? Tell yourself every day that you're amazing. Tell your friends that they're amazing too, okay? Thank you. So I'm happy to answer questions, but I think, I don't know if we're out of time.
We can take one question.
Okay, one question.
Anybody who hasn't asked a question yet? All right.
I was waiting to ask a question. Thank you so much. You just talked about training, and you also talked about as you grow at a certain age, you have to do certain exercises. And I've been hearing and reading a lot about weight training, especially after age 30. And before I could learn, my daughter, who's now grown up, has been pushing me for years to go for weight training. So fine, she learned before I did. So now I have been trying to go at least 2 to 3 times a week. And I have a gym buddy, so we push each other.
Great.
But I don't know how much is enough. I mean, is 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days? I mean, I'm sure something is better than nothing, but what's ideal for women,
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And so I can tell you, the recommendations are to try and, within your exercise regimen, have a couple of days of weight training, right? I think that really, so a couple of things I think about exercise. The first thing is that the best exercise is the one you're actually going to do, right? So if you love weight training, and you do want to get a mix of cardio and weight training, right? But if you love weight training, if you've got a great personal trainer, if you've got a really fun class that you like to do, right? You can do it, 3, 4, 5 times a week, right? You can do it more than twice a week, right? You just have to be really careful that you're doing it in a smart way. You're watching that you're not getting injured, right? You don't want to overdo. You don't want to necessarily, push weights or have bad form or whatever, right? So you have to be careful about those things. But I think having a mix of, cardiovascular and weight training is good. And if you're someone who prefers to focus on the weight training, that's okay, as long as you're doing it smartly. Like, I don't like weight training. I mean, I do it. I used to tell all my patients, you gotta weight train, right? Like, it's really important, strength training. And they'd say, well, Dr. Kurkjian, what do you do for weight training? I'd be like, well, I really don't, So then I said, okay, this is bad. If I'm going to tell my patients that they need to do weight training, I got to do it too. But I don't really like it that much, right? So I try, my goal is if I can do twice a week, and I'd love to do more because I know if I do more, my strength will improve. You know, you make your choices, right? Well, and I think, you know, it's quality over quantity too, right? So it's quality over quantity. And, you know, I think, so personally, so I started working with a personal trainer, and I found this to be, like, just personally, I found it to be really beneficial because and when I first met the trainer, he's like, well, what are your goals? And I said, I don't want to get injured. And he's like, okay, well, you know, do you want to be, I said, I don't want to get injured. Like, I don't have any other goal, but I don't want to get injured, right? And so I found that really helpful to have someone kind of help me with form and that kind of thing. So I think taking advantage of, you know, personal trainers, class instructors who really know what they're doing can sort of help you, like, you know, am I just going through the motions or really am I working, right? How do I work that little bit extra so I'm pushing myself and I'm gaining strength.
Right. Thank you so much. And what stood out to me most was the reframing the situation part so that you're not feel like a victim, but you're observing the situation and evaluating things. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.